What is up, Jags fans? Woo! Post-draft, baby. I mean, I feel like this is going to take us a year to break down all these picks. I mean, I can't remember a draft in my lifetime where the Jags have had this many picks. Now, I haven't checked the facts on that, but wow. A lot to talk about, that's for sure. Before we get into everything, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and follow the Twitter and the Instagram. That's where I stay connected with everybody, and you can give me your thoughts and opinions there. You can also give me your thoughts and opinions in the live stream comments. Go ahead and type your comments. Tell me what you think. I try to get to all of the comments to hear from you guys. If you're watching the show on replay or on VOD, we do live shows Tuesday nights, 9 p.m., sometimes Fridays in the off season, 9 p.m. But make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. So much to talk about, and admittedly, I haven't even had time to really even review all the picks. Like, I haven't even had time to honestly give a fair assessment on the draft because we have so many players picked. I couldn't even tell you like the value we got in round 6 and 7. Like, I haven't even gotten there yet. You guys know I usually do breakdown videos. So I'm working on my Anton Harrison breakdown video right now. I've gone through 3 games so far, and it's going to take a long time. Luckily, we have the whole offseason. I'm going to try to put out like one every couple days for the next couple weeks, but Anton Harrison's is coming up for sure. I've been breaking down his film and have a little bit to say about him. We're going to take a look at some of the PFF grades of some of the early drafted guys, and again, I want to get your opinions on it. So, this is a fan show, so let's get right into it. Robert Atzert in the comments says, the first one says, let's go, Nolly Full Cab channel member. What up, Nolly? I'm always happy the Nolly's here. He spams the Blake Bortles emojis. Seedon Sesko, who is like definitely a top 38 soccer official, says United. What up? Sea Breacher says yo. Sea Breacher's also a channel member. I'm just kidding, Seedon. Richard Bueller says hi. Matthew McCray, just go ahead and he puts it all on the line, right? And he's just gonna say draft grade B. DJM says Jason Son. Rico says yo. Sea Breacher says only pick I didn't like was Ventrell Miller. Okay, I think a lot of my FSU friends would agree with you there. Timmy Devil 999 is probably my favorite comment so far, but I haven't read a lot of them. Says extremely mid draft. Mid is what the kids say nowadays when they say they're not that impressed. But I'll wait and hold my real judgment. I'll be rooting for everyone that we picked. Now, I want to just kind of quickly touch on that. I think waiting is the smart thing to do. I mean, really think about it. We just now kind of think we know what the 2021 drafted players have become. Like, we all knew Trevor was going to be good. But Travis Etienne, I mean, we just now think we know what he is. Walker Little, we still kind of think we know what he is. Andre Sisco, we just now kind of think that was a good pick, right? And go down that entire draft. And, like, we just now can form opinions about that draft. So it's going to take a couple years before we can say how Balky did on this draft. With so many picks, you would think the chances of him hitting are high. So that's the good news. A lot of trading down. Like, I'd love to know what y'all thought about that. I had said on this show a billion times I thought trading down was the right thing to do. I'm glad Balky traded down from the first pick, but the second round pick, I'm not sure I was so stoked about trading down from 2. But we'll see with Brenton Strange. That could be a pick that ends up being one that serves us well for the next couple of years. And if it is, then we were thin at tight end. We'll get to that here in a second. Holy Cowsy says draft class is a B+. Our later picks were better than rounds 2 or 3 for sure. I like that. Matthew McCrae says liked the Vohask pick. He's a guy who can make plays, not going to be super dynamic, but he's good. And Vinchell had high praise from every coach who coached him. Well, you guys know how I feel about Billy Napier. I think he's a subpar coach, so I wouldn't take any praise from Billy Napier too seriously. Robert Atwood says Tank is Robinson with speed. Tank Bigsby was one of my most surprising. I was the most surprised at that pick. Jaggernaut says, what up, United? What up, Jags Nation? Let's go. Timmy Devil, I only liked Tank and Yasir from this draft. Don't believe you draft career left tackle and throw him at right tackle. Not a fan of that move. We're going to look, let's take a look at Anton Harrison's PFF grades here. So let's take a look at like snaps by position, just to go ahead and take a look here at what he did. O-line doesn't really tell us if it's left tackle or right tackle, but obviously that's what he did there. Let's look at his offensive grades. So, like, this was promising, and let me get rid of this chat here. I promise I'll see it. This was a little promising, is that his grades did seem to improve as the season went on, right? So, this is PFF, and I know some people are like, oh, PFF sucks. That's fine. I don't care. He did play right tackle week 1. So, week 1 against UTEP, he did actually indeed play a right tackle. So, career left tackle, maybe not so accurate. Just kidding. All right. Left tackle every like kind of started slow. So I've watched the Kansas State game. I watched the Texas game. So Kansas State, apparently people liked what he did against I don't know how to pronounce his name, but the Chiefs pretty much drafted a D end in the first round from Kansas State. And he went on his record in saying that Anton Harrison is one of the best tackles that he's gone against. That's good to hear. But early sneak peek indication of what I'm seeing out of Anton Harrison so far. And although I'm not like let me get this thing centered here. Although I'm not like, I never played offensive tackle in the NFL, obviously. But I feel like I have a pretty firm grasp on what developmental traits make a good tackle. Like, I'm usually spot on the offensive line when it comes to evaluating picks. He reminds me a lot of Juwan Taylor, and I got to give the local radio guys, like Frank Frangie, I think was the one that said it. He said before I had watched any film that we replaced Juwan Taylor with Anton Harrison. And I couldn't agree more after watching 3 games. Now, it's not my full assessment yet. I've only watched 3 games, but he reminds me a lot of Juwan Taylor. Just kind of uses his size to get in your way. Not necessarily like overly strong compared to a lot of tackles in the NFL who can really pop you with their hands, but can get in your way. So that's why some of like this early scouting reports were like some NFL teams were worried about speed rushers against this guy. But there's not a lot of tackles in the NFL who like you feel good about handling speed rushers, right? An NFL speed rusher is a monster of a person. So you kind of just want a guy who can do what you need him to do, Juwan Taylor-esque. And again, look at what Juwan Taylor's got paid. So you like to see the improvement of grades as the season goes on. Was playing his best football as he got more comfortable in the situation. I mean, look at these pass blocking grades. I mean, you want these colors, boys. I'm telling you, you want these colors in your pass blocking grades. If you look at the run blocking grades, my head's kind of in the way here. Let's see if I can move it out of the way just for a quick second. I know you guys love looking at me, right? They are not so green, but they're pretty green. Again, this reminds me a lot of Juwan Taylor's grades. And again, you got to also consider Oklahoma's offense. It was pretty stagnant this year. They were a pretty bad team this year. They didn't have great quarterback play, and I'm not necessarily sure that the offense helped him when it came to his running grades. Matthew McCray says, "What up, Jags United? Not much. Just got done with a soccer game. Cedar and Sesko did not ref the game, but we did lose. We were missing a lot of people, so sad day." Matthew McCray says, "Glad to be off today and catch the show." Nice. I love to hear it. Robert Atwood says, "Ben Barnes was a left tackle." That's true. He was. Timmy Devil says, "And he wasn't dominant at all at left tackle, unlike Anton." DJM says, "I was more pumped for last year's draft class than this year. It's probably the least exciting draft we've had." Callie Jack says, "I was pissed during the draft and changed it. Never changed a draft in my life, but I got to remember to trust Doug." Astrid says he was dominant in his school. Watch the tape. Volk Fang channel member says, "What up, fellas? Not much. We're just taking a look at right now Anton Harrison's grades as we go through the. We're not going to get through all the draft picks. I mean, we just don't have time. I mean, it's just so many freaking draft picks, and I want to give their due credit. I'm going to do videos for just Harrison, Strange, Miller, and Bigsby by themselves, and then everyone else I'm probably just going to combine into multiple two people into one show or one video. So I'm going to try to have that video done. I'm going to say Friday. Friday. I'll have that video done Friday because I'm actually off-ish Friday. So I do have to make one quick errand. I got to take my mom to the eye doctor. So that shouldn't take too long. It shouldn't get in the way of film breakdown. So we'll see how that goes. I just want one word of caution. And again, I just want to kind of pin this in here. I wanted to kind of say this a little bit later in the show. Just because I know some people only have 5 to 10 minutes of attention span in them. And those of you that are still watching it here consume a lot of content. Be careful of content creators, whether it be YouTube, writers, ESPN. Be careful of anybody that's immediately giving you a grade or hardcore feedback about this draft. Like I said, there's so many players. It is not even humanly possible to do the amount of research on these guys to formulate a coherent, educated opinion about this draft. Now, Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke, Tony Khan, they probably have been looking at these guys for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months. Everyone else, Jags fans related, we are for the first time hearing a lot of these names as of last weekend. So anybody that's out there saying great draft, horrible draft, they don't know. It's literally impossible to know. It is impossible to know. I'm sorry. So be weary of those people. I'm not going to sit here and tell you. That's why I like Timmy Devil's comment about how he thinks initially it was mid, as the kids would say, but he's going to reserve judgment and he's rooting for him. I think that's the right way to approach this, because even Anton Harrison, I'm going through his film and I still am not sure how he's going to translate in the NFL. And again, I watch a lot of film. I watch a lot of offensive linemen. I don't know. So I can give you some things I'm concerned about, right? I am concerned that we use such high draft capital on a running back when we have a starting running back. And JaMychal Hasty, who I think is serviceable as running back too. I am concerned that we use such a high draft capital on a linebacker, Ventrell Miller, when we just extended Aluakon and we have Muma and we have Lloyd. And you literally drafted a box safety again this year who will probably take the place of one of those guys in obvious passing situations. Now, I know we can get out of some of those contracts if we need to, but just interesting to see that we went that way. So, just word of the wise. Can we watch Antonio tape? So we're not going to watch any tape on this video because I'm going to dedicate entire videos to film breakdowns on those guys. So we're going to save that and that's Friday. The Harrison film will be out Friday, and it'll be a well-researched film breakdown like usual. Jaguars says, "I don't know why people don't like Abdullah. Can't be a factor. I don't think Abdullah can't be a factor. Seems like Chazon, but actually produced in college." So again, I just off of the Yasir Abdullah, I like the fact that he is an edge rusher and he's a speed rusher. I thought that was one of our biggest needs. Surprised we waited so long to address it, but that's fine. When you bring in Mama United on the show, she would love to be on here. She loves people. She loves talking, man. She talked more than me. You want to know where I get it from? I get it honestly. Holy cowsies. Antonio Johnson is finally our nickel-sized DB that will fit into our dime package easily. Okay. I did see some people concerned about his coverage skills. Again, Maybe people have poured through the Texas A&M tape and they have evaluated how he's going to be in situations like a dime situation. I don't know. Saw someone say on Twitter today that that he was covering Jameson Williams one-on-one, and I was like, Jameson Williams went for like $150 and 2 touchdowns against Texas A&M. So don't know about that. C Breacher says, "Trust me, bro. It was a great draft. I trust you, C. I trust. Look, if you say it, I'll believe it." Volkfang says, "My biggest problem isn't with any single draftee, but the process as a whole. We've drafted 3 linebackers with a first plus more since we moved up, a third and a fourth. The linebacker thing is definitely throwing me for a loop. Maybe this is what I was thinking. Maybe like Mike Caldwell is like looking for that Devin White, Levante David guy. Like, just really looking for him. Like, he thought Devin Lloyd would be it. Aluakon's good, but not that. That's the only thing I can think of. Richard Bueller, don't forget that last year Doug and this team cut so many players that they had to and add players from other teams. Cut. Still trying to structure the team if I had to guess. They definitely went to depth this year, which is a good situation. A good situation. All right, we looked at those grades already. Let's move on to Brenton Strange. Okay, so this is Brenton Strange. This is the way that he lined up as a player on the team. So down on the bottom, this is totals if you can't see it. So throughout all of the weeks total, he lined up as an inline. It's weird the total's this way, actually. That's kind of strange. Okay, here's the total. All right, he lined up as an inline tight end 275 times. He lined up as a slot tight end 233 times. So that's pretty close to being like, I mean, not 50-50. I mean, what are we going to call that? Like 60-40? 60-40, he lined up inline and slot, which I think is good. Like, I think that's a good situation because Evan Ingram is on a franchise tag if he signs it. You don't have much depth there at tight end. We all thought that tight end was going to be a position that they were going to identify. I think what threw people for a loop is that no one wanted Brenton Strange. And again, not even the think that we had like that he's bad. I just don't think anyone like had him on his radar. We were talking about Zach Kuntz at Old Dominion over a billion times over this guy. So I just think it kind of caught us off guard. They did address it early. They liked this guy. I don't know if it was Todd McShay or Mel Kiper. One of these dudes said they really liked him. So, cool. Lined up at wide receiver 58 times. So it has a lot of utility at 6'4", 253. If we take a look at like his grades, and we're going to look at his yards here in a second. So let's look at his straight grades. Not like the color you want to see. Now, again, I know he lines up at tight end, and they had a pretty tough schedule. When you take a look at some of the teams they played, that's too big. Let's go here. Okay. You look at like Michigan State, Arkansas, Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Auburn, Wisconsin. I mean, they had a fairly decent schedule. I mean, it's Penn State. You'd hope so. But it really just kind of goes to show that the level of competition can be a big indicator. I mean, he had a decent game, 74 grade against Michigan State, 71 grade against Illinois, almost 70 grades against Villanova and Indiana. Run blocking grades. This is what we care about, right? If we take a look at his run blocking grades, an 80 against Villanova. 39 against Wisconsin's not good, but didn't play that many 9 run block snaps for only 9 run block snaps. So I'd say it's a little skewed result there. Not great. But then he kind of turns it on toward maybe they changed the scheme. Again, haven't gotten to his film yet, but starts to turn it on toward the end of the year here. If we get rid of my mug here, you can see that his grades really improved toward the end of the year, and his run blocking grade finished with an 80. So that is what you want. That's why we brought him in. The Jags did need help running the ball, so glad to see that they got that help. Volkfang says the Pats really run like a 4-1-6. Maybe we're looking to run like a 3-6-2. You got to remember, like, people, I say this all the time, like, people get really caught up in, like, what defense teams run. Like, in Madden, it's important. In the NFL, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they have guys in certain situations and packages that make no sense. Kind of like you're talking about there, Volkfang, like people are like all over the place. Grace Lambert says LFG Jags. Yeah, LFG. Daquan Dollison says Duval. The Great Mistakes Bozo says, where's the next Jay Trent vid? It's coming up. It's coming up. So I started another channel. It's like politics, culture, and entertainment. Links in the bio. I've done one episode last week. But yeah, we'll do more. Yeah. You guys know me. If you've been following the channel for a long time, you guys know in the summer I start cranking out content because I get some nice time off in the summer at my other job. So I'm just kind of gearing up for like this month. I'm going to try to put out like maybe 5 or 6 videos this month, and then I'm going to try to go like freaking daily starting in June. So subscribe to that channel. It's in this channel description. Didn't Strange have a bad quarterback play, though? Yeah, from what I have heard. Again, haven't even gotten to Britton Strange film yet. Volkfang, the fact that Kuntz was in the 7th to the Jets, I understand he didn't have a lot of tape, but it wasn't bad tape. What really threw me off more than anything was there was like 2 other guys from Old Dominion drafted before him. Like, what happened? What is happening at Old Dominion football where they're producing draft picks left and right? Couldn't believe it. Old Dominion, I mean, they had a tackle that was taken. I saw another position, a receiver. Like, where was this high-powered offense? Old Dominion. Good for them. Robert Atwood says, Derek Parrish was a good halfback, but a better pass rusher. His tape is sick. Ooh, I can't wait to watch that. Antonio Johnson, by far the best pick. I like how Embiid won MVP and his team just won a playoff game without him. And not to mention that, like, Jokic looked really good and Harden looked really good last night. That was crazy. Antonio Johnson and tight end, only good picks. Brandon Waters, what up, Brandon? Says, DTWD, baby, excited for this draft class. Let's go, Jags. I saw Brandon getting into it with some Muay Thai guy on Twitter. I don't know anything about Muay Thai, so I couldn't, like, chime in. But I was just like, get him, Brandon. Get him. I love a little Twitter war every once in a while. Ascension Burner says, let's go Monarchs. Let's take a look at Britton Strange stats here. I don't know if you can see him, but this is what people like were not like super pumped about was like his like stats as like a football player, which is kind of funny to say out loud. But he had 20 receptions on the season. So he's obviously a run blocker. Now I know the quarterback play was mid, right? And I know that like it was McShay or somebody said they liked him in that. They think he'll excel in that even as like he goes in the NFL. 225 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's not bad considering 20 catches. If we go down, let's see here. If we go down to his season grades down here at the bottom, pretty consistent player. 755 total career yards at Penn State. Yeah, doesn't fumble. That's nice. So, you know, Britton Strange is a guy that, you know, I'd be cool with. Yeah, can't blame that at all. We beat Tech and Old Dominion was terrible. Which Tech? Virginia Tech? Georgia Tech? Florida Tech? There's a Florida Tech if you didn't know. But again, like relax. Like, at least let some of us get through like the film. Like, or you go through the film. Or like, you know, let's wait. Because like people are freaking out and it's just like I saw one YouTuber talking about how like the Jags like did a terrible job in this draft. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I would never like say don't have an opinion, but I would just caution people to be a little like conservative because it's humanly impossible to even review all these guys. Like literally humanly possible. Like I'm telling you. Well, let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see what happens. Richmond Marooter says his yards after catch is nice though. And have you seen the play he flipped over a dude for a touchdown? I was like, damn. I have not, but when I watch this film, I'm sure that I will. All right, let's take a look at Tank Bigsby. Okay, this is a pick that I was really surprised because I was like, a running back? Because I thought they liked Hasty. But apparently, I mean, when you draft a when you draft a running back in the third round, you really like him. Like, if you draft a receiver in the third round, you really like him. And receivers are much more valuable in as far as draft capital than halfbacks are. So they must have really liked him. I mean, he went off against Mercer with 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, first of all, you better go off against Mercer. But week 1, sometimes teams come out slow week 1. Another guy who only fumbled 1 time all of last season. San Jose State, only 13 carries, so you can't really judge him there. Penn State, only 9 carries. See, this is what's nice. I'm always looking for these games where draft picks play each other. So when Auburn plays Penn State, I'm going to get some great film out of that game because I get to watch like 3 prospects in one game. So that's going to be a double, triple doozy there. Missouri, 44 yards. Kind of had a little stagnant thing here. I don't know if he was injured or whatnot. I'll have to get into that when the film goes off against Ole Miss, 179 on 20 carries. So when he actually gets carries, he goes off for 179 and 2 touchdowns. Arkansas, 63, Mississippi State, 89, Texas A&M, 124, and Western Kentucky, 110. So he ended the season with 976 yards, just 24 yards shy of 1,000, 10 touchdowns. That's pretty good. And I think I have he didn't have much receptions. I mean, I have it there coming up. But again, I mean, these are some good, you like to see this. His worst games, understandably, against LSU and Georgia. But again, understandably. Alabama, not a terrible game. But so look, we got his receiving yards, no touchdowns, but he had 180 yards receiving. So all purpose, he is looking to be north of 1,100. So that is always nice to see. I think the most receptions he ever had in a game was 4 against Alabama for -1 yards. That's not too great. 38 yards against Penn State. So he at least had some receiving yards against Penn State. 37 yards against Arkansas and 6 receptions. So they obviously used him out of the backfield because this is an incredibly high receiving percentage here. But yeah, not bad. Great color here. Like to see that. Again, only the 1 fumble or no fumbles as a receiver. Atrid says, yeah, everybody said why Campbell too. That's a good point. That's true. With the current state of our defense, who will we have the most trouble defending? Stroud's offense, Richardson's offense, or Levis's offense? Now, I think that's an interesting question, DJM. Great one, by the way. But I think eventually Stroud and the Texans are going to be a pretty good offense. They've been building. They have a decent offensive line. They're building toward it. I like what they're doing at wide receiver. I like what they're. I like C.J. Stroud, or not C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud. So I think the Texans will end up being the hardest team for us to defend. I don't think they've put much into their offense. I want to look at all their draft picks, and I'm actually going to do a show about the AFC South and what I think about those players. Who did they draft that I'm forgetting? Will Anderson. Oh, geez. Okay. So Will Anderson is definitely a beast. Juice Scruggs. Nathaniel Dell. Dylan Horton, no clue. Henry 202, Alabama. Jarrett Patterson, 2 centers, interesting. Xavier Hutchinson, I know everyone loved Xavier Hutchinson in our chat. And then Brandon Hill. Imagine only having to break down 7 guys. That would be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. For sure. So here we have Ventrell Miller, 6 foot 232. A lot of people. Jariah Salters with a $10 super chat. Jariah, dude, thank you. I appreciate that. He says, Doug Super Bowl run. He had a good running back rotation, 2 tight ends, and a good O-line. He's recreating that same offense. Balky definitely going to dip back in free agency. People need to relax. We are just fine. Well, Jariah, I appreciate the $10 super chat. That is awesome. Appreciate you supporting the channel. And I think you're right. I've tried to look through the roster and see like who we have that's like that could be equal and like if he's trying to build. So this was their Super Bowl winning roster, and so they had LeGarrette Blount was actually their feature back, who maybe that's what they're trying to do with Tank Bigsby is be like LeGarrette Blount. Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Zach Ertz. Carson Wentz obviously got hurt. Good offensive line. You look at the rest of their roster here. Corey Clement, Darren Sproles, Wendell Smallwood, Corey Clement, LeGarrette Blount, Kenyon Barner, I forgot about him, Jay Ajayi, Torrey Smith. His tight ends were Brent Selleck, Zach Ertz, and Trey Burton. That's a good little room right there. Yeah, you're right. And listen, I was trying to draw some like parallels. We didn't have anyone on the roster that LeGarrette Blount. So I was always and LeGarrette Blount like led his team in rushing one year. And you look at who his backs were in the past, it were other kind of like smaller backs. And then LeGarrette Blount was like out of nowhere, just like led the team in rushing. I've forgotten who they are. It's been a while since I looked, but I'm with you. Like I trust Doug. I don't really trust Trent Baalke as much as a lot of people do. Like I didn't hate him as much as people did during the whole clown thing, but I don't love him as much as people do now. Like I'm kind of staying more midline, a little more skeptic, just because I think, yeah, he's reaping the benefits of Trevor Lawrence, but anybody, like everyone in this chat, me, my neighbor who doesn't watch football. Actually, I have one neighbor that does watch football, but the neighbor across the street, older lady, doesn't watch football. She would have drafted Trevor Lawrence. So I'm just hesitant to crown Trent Baalke as a guy who puts together master classes, when I think it may have been a little bit more Trevor. And again, not hating on the guy. Again, I thought the clown thing was stupid. You never want to do that come on. But I don't know. We'll see how the restructuring goes. You can't hate on a guy who's turned a roster around the way that he has. The Christian Kirk findings seemed to be a great signing at the time. A lot of people didn't like that. But, for every Christian Kirk, there was a Shaq Griffin. And I know that's how the NFL goes, but I'm not as low on him as people were when they were at its lowest, and I'm not as high on him as people were when on the highest, but I do trust Doug Peterson. So I think that goes to your point there, Jariah. And again, appreciate it, $10. Richmond Marooter says, my opinion, Baker, Clark, Yannick are all definitely options, but plenty available. Yeah. I mean, they are going to have to address edge just a little bit more, even though Calvin Ridley. Okay. Calvin Ridley, to be fair, Chase, I'm with you. And I think Calvin Ridley was an amazing move, but we have not seen it yet. And I'm with you. I'm 99.9% confident Calvin Ridley is going to add a lot to our team, but he hasn't played in almost 2 years. And it's not very often that a player comes back at any contributing capacity after not playing for 2 years. Now, that's obviously not fair because they're never usually as young as Calvin Ridley, and there's usually an injury or some sort of like legal trouble. And I know gambling is technically legal trouble, but that's not like the type of legal trouble that is. So we'll see. Miller is a quarterman replacement. I think you're right, Robert, but do you take Ventrell Miller? Do you take a fourth-round player to replace your linebacker that never gets on the field? Like, you could probably replace him in like the 5th or 6th or 7th. I think they really like Ventrell Miller. And I like Ventrell Miller. Again, I watched every Florida game, and Ventrell Miller was like the one bright spot on the Florida defense. I mean, Florida defense was terrible. If we look at his 2022 grades by game, had a great game against Utah, decent games against Kentucky, Tennessee, and Eastern Washington. Good game, really good game against Missouri. Subpar games against LSU and Georgia. And we just saw Tank Bigsby, same thing. great. A lot of people had subpar games against LSU and Georgia. A&M, okay. South Carolina, okay. Good game against Vanderbilt, and then crap the bed against Florida State, which is interesting because I don't remember him playing that bad in that game. If we look at his rankings here, like not amazing, but again, the Florida defense was pretty bad. If we look at his snaps by alignment, mostly played in the box as a linebacker in 2022. 16 missed tackles for 2022. 586 defensive snaps. Pretty much half and half run defense and coverage, which means he just played all the time. 65 tackles, 18 assistant tackles, 64 tackles. So, yeah, I mean, let's take a look at the trends here. Okay, not really going to help here. Okay. Redshirt senior, a little bit older guy. But yeah, I mean, if we look through these other picks here, and again, and I'm just going to give you, and you guys can feel free to add on any way you'd like, but Tyler Lacey, defensive end, Oklahoma State. This is from Mike Duraco. Lacey was a productive player at Oklahoma State against the run, but wasn't much of a pass rusher. 11.5 sacks in 4 seasons. So he doesn't help much in terms of addressing the Jaguars' biggest need. Lacey fits in as a backup to Roy Robertson Harris and Foley Fatukasi and will compete for Adam Gotsis for playing time. The Jaguars needed help here because they haven't re-signed Dewan Smoot, who suffered a torn Achilles. So he's going to be that big end that plays where Fatukasi and Robertson and Gotsis play. So they did just re-sign Devon Hamilton, so he's going to probably lock down that nose. And I'm so happy for Devon Hamilton. I really am. Devon Hamilton's a good guy. We didn't even get to talk about that, and I hate that I waited 37 minutes, but I actually was really excited about the Devon Hamilton re-signing. I wanted them to re-sign him. I think he's a really good player, and I don't think his production has talked to how much he has contributed, if that makes any sense. Do they move Lloyd down to the line to rush and have Miller take his spot? No, I don't think they play the same position. I think Ventrell Miller plays more of the Aluakon linebacker role, like that Mike linebacker who is more run support, and if he has to be in coverage, he's hopefully covering the slowest guy on the field, or it's in a situation where it's not deep down the field. Whereas Devin Lloyd, I think, gives you sideline to sideline coverage ability and the ability to get to the edge on the backside of a run to set the edge. And I don't necessarily think Ventrell Miller could do that in the NFL. But I don't know. Good question, though. Yasir Abdullah, a lot of people liked this pick. Jaguars finally addressed their pass rush issue with Abdullah in round 5, who had 19.5 sacks in the last 2 seasons. I talked about it all the time. I mean, my favorite, you guys remember, my favorite player was Will McDonald III, and he was mocked to be around the Jaguars pick, and I kept saying, I want this guy, and he ended up going what was it, 12th or 13th to the Jets. I was so I told you guys he was good. And the reason why I liked him and the reason why I thought he was good was because he actually got sacks. He actually got after the quarterback. So when I see that Yasir Abdullah had 19.5 sacks in 2 seasons, I like that. And I don't care if he's 6'1", 237. I don't necessarily think that's undersized. 237 coming out of college is actually, you can put 10 pounds of muscles on, he's 250. So I don't necessarily think that's small. I mean, is he shorter? Maybe. But made a lot of tackles behind the line of scrimmage. 42 tackles for loss. Again, this is what I want. Consistently delivered big plays. 8 forced fumbles. 3 interceptions. That's it, man. I'm telling you, this is what we needed. I think they got a lot of value here. That being said, I have watched 0 film on him. So, don't hold me to these takes quite yet. Antonio Johnson, and people love this pick. Safety, Texas A&M. Johnson's listed as a safety, but spent 47% of his snaps lined up in the slot for the Aggies, who ranked first in the SEC in pass defense. Johnson didn't exactly light it up on the stat sheet in his 3 seasons at A&M. He logged 1 pick, 7 pass breakups, though he did record a lot of tackles. 164, that is a lot of tackles. I mean, that's a tackling machine. Slot corner was arguably the Jags' biggest need behind pass rusher heading into the draft, so Johnson will get a chance to compete with Trey Herndon to win the job. Just don't think they're the same person. I don't think they're the same person at all. I think Trey Herndon is more like Darius Williams, and Antonio Johnson is more like Rayshon Jenkins. Round 6, wide receiver, Parker Washington. I love when the Jags draft 2 players from the same college because that makes watching film so much easier. 185. Washington had 146 catches for almost 2,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. I like that. Again, I like production. He played outside in the slot and was Penn State's primary punt returner. He'll have a chance to compete with Tim Jones, Kendrick Pryor to be the team's 5th receiver behind Ridley, Kirk, Zay Jones, and Jamal Agnew. Though Bigsby's the team 3rd-round pick, can also play in the slot as well. I don't think there's a world where Tim Jones or Kendrick Pryor beat out this guy for the 5th spot. They'll probably keep 6 like they usually do. Christian Braswell, cornerback, Rutgers. My take, Braswell spent 6 years in college at Temple and Rutgers. He transferred to Rutgers in 21, but missed the season with a knee injury. He finished strong, 3 picks, 11 pass breakups. He'll have to find a role on special teams to have a chance of making the roster. For some reason, the Jags love drafting defensive backs in these late picks. Remember Gregory Jr., Monterey Brown. But yeah, don't know if he'll make the team. Eric Hallett III. Hallett, who was the semifinalist for the Thorpe Award last season. Oh, I didn't know that. Is another safety who can play in the slot. He's a playmaker at Pitt with 158 tackles, 22 pass breakups, 4 forced fumbles, 5 fumble recoveries, and 7 picks in 4 seasons. Round 7, pick 226. Cooper Hodges, offensive tackle. Hodges played tackle in college, but projects to be a guard in the NFL. Hodges started 51 games at App State, mainly at right tackle, but played guard in the Pro Bowl. NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. If this seems like a lot of picks, it's because it is. Round 7, Raymond Vohasek, D tackle, North Carolina. Vohasek had 96 tackles and 5.5 sacks in 4 seasons with the Tar Heels. He's a little undersized at 6'2", 300 pounds, and will be a long shot to make the roster. He'll have to hope to impress him to find a spot in the practice squad. So why not draft a kicker? Round 7, Derek Parrish, probably my favorite pick. Parrish was a D lineman, linebacker at Houston, but also played some fullback. Started 1 game there as a junior in 2020. That's where the Jags are going to use him first. The Jaguars haven't had a fullback on the roster since Bruce Miller in 2020. Miller was a defensive end in college at UCF, but the San Francisco 49ers drafted him in the 7th round and converted him to fullback. Balky was the 49ers GM. That's some deep, nice job there. Nice job there. Was this? This was Mike Draco. Good insight there. Yasir is good. Louisville fan, go to the games every year. Fourth sneeze almost got me. Didn't know much on Miller. Okay. Yasir will end up as a better pass rusher. Rather have Mumet Mike. Yasir is good. Louisville fan, go to the games every year. Louisville only ever rushed 3 and hardly ever got to the quarterback, but Yasir was the only dominant person on the defense. Nice. Ben Lost says, did I miss it? Ben Lost, you did. You did, and I'm sorry. But you know we start at 9 p.m., okay? Usually. So go back and watch the VOD, Ben Lost. And listen, I have not watched a lick of film on anybody. I watched a little bit of Anton Harrison last couple days again. I watched a little bit. I watched the whole Texas game. Watched the whole Kansas State game. Looks very Juwan Taylor-esque to me. But I'm not going to give an unfair assessment until I watch all of the games from 2022. And I was actually talking to Jordan DeLugo on Twitter. I asked him what games he was most impressed with, and he gave me a game recommendation from 2021 that I'm going to watch. So we'll see about that. But look for Friday. What's up, Raiden? I'm going to put up Friday. I'm going to put out my Anton Harrison film breakdown, and that'll be awesome. It'll be good. And then I'm moving right on to Brenton Strange, and then moving right on to Tank Bigsby, and then Ventrell Miller. And then after that, I'll probably start combining some of the film breakdowns into one episode. But they'll all get their own episode on their own. Duval TV says I'm late. Yeah, you are. We're actually about to end it, Duval. I'm so sorry. But I'm glad you're here, but I'm sorry that you missed it. Go back and watch it. I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for giving me your opinions. If you just got here and you're late, put your opinions in the comments. In fact, if you were here on time, just go ahead and put your opinions in the comments. I think comments helps the video algorithm, so do that. Like the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all that stuff. Subscribe to all that stuff. It's all Jags all the time. I love the Jags. You guys love the Jags. I'm about to watch some playoff basketball and some playoff hockey, so I'm super excited about that. Appreciate you guys being here. Shout out to Jariah Salters for the $10 super chat. I really appreciate that. And then always a shout out to the channel members that are here. Volkfang, Sea Breacher. Who else did we have? Nolly Full Cab. All you guys, all the usual commenters. I appreciate you guys as well. It was a great time talking Jags. Make sure to be looking for that Friday film breakdown on Anton Harrison. Until next